close your eyes. Not yet, but almost. Let them grow heavy first. Let the edges of the room around you soften and blur. Let the sounds of the world outside begin to fade. You have nothing to do right now, nowhere to be, no message to send, no task waiting. This time, the next few hours belongs entirely to you and to sleep. Let's begin with your breathing. Take one slow breath in through your nose. Fill your lungs gently, not forcing it, just allowing the air to arrive. Feel your chest and your belly rise. Hold it for just a moment at the top and release, slowly. Let the breath leave on its own without pushing. Feel your chest and your belly soften as it goes. Feel your body settle a little deeper into the surface beneath you. Again, breathe in, slowly, a little deeper this time, filling from the bottom of your lungs upward, like water filling a vessel from the bottom up. Hold and release, all the way out, until there's nothing left. And then let the next breath come in on its own, like a tide returning to the shore, unhurried, reliable, always coming back. That's right. Your body knows how to do this. It has done this every night of your life, every single night, thousands of times. You don't need to think about it. You only need to allow it. Now I want you to bring your attention to your jaw. Notice where it is right now. Notice if it's holding any tension, any tightness at the hinge, any pressure between your back teeth. So many of us carry the day in our jaw without ever realizing it. And just let it go. Let your jaw drop very slightly. Let your lips part just a little. Let your tongue settle soft and heavy to the floor of your mouth and rest there. There. Now your shoulders. Feel where they are right now. Feel if they have crept upward toward your ears, carrying the weight of the day, the weight of everything that happened and everything that didn't happen, and slowly, deliberately, let them fall. Let them sink downward and outward. Let them spread wide and soft against the surface beneath you. There is nothing for your shoulders to carry right now, nothing at all. Now your hands, let them rest where they are. Feel the weight of them. Heavier than you usually notice, heavy and warm and still. Feel your fingers uncurl just slightly, like the hand of a sleeping child. You don't need to grip anything tonight. And your legs, your feet, let them fall open if they haven't already. Let all the small muscles in your calves and ankles and feet go soft. Feel the surfaces that support you, the mattress, the pillow, the floor beneath everything, and simply allow your body to be held by them. You do not need to hold yourself up. You are already being held. Breathe in. Breathe out. One more time. In and out. Your body is slowing down, your heart rate is quieting, falling into its long, slow, nighttime rhythm. Your nervous system is settling, the way still water settles after a stone has been dropped into it. The ripples spreading outward and growing smaller and smaller until the surface is glass. You are safe right now, completely safe. There is nothing to solve, nothing to fear, nothing to prepare for. Whatever tomorrow holds, it will wait for you. Whatever today was and whatever it left behind in your body, in your mind, you are allowed to set it down now, right here, and leave it until morning. Right now, there is only this. Only the quiet, only the slow rise and fall of your breath and the warmth spreading through your limbs. Let your thoughts drift if they come. Don't chase them. Don't push them away either. Simply notice them, the way you might notice clouds drifting across an evening sky, and let them pass. They will come back in the morning if they matter. You don't need to hold any of them tonight. Tonight, I'm going to take you somewhere. It is one of the strangest, most remarkable places on our planet, a world that exists right now, in this very moment, as you lie here. A world that exists beneath the ocean surface, in the permanent dark, in water cold enough to take your breath away. A world most humans will never see and most have never imagined in any detail. A world of absolute, total, perfect darkness, and of the most extraordinary light. Tonight, we go down. Down past the sunlit surface waters, down past the last traces of blue and green, down past the point where all sunlight ends, where it has always ended since the first oceans formed on this ancient planet. We go into the midnight zone. And there, in the crushing cold and the perfect stillness, in water that has never known a ray of sunlight, something waits, a small creature, strange, ancient, beyond imagination, evolved across hundreds of millions of years into a shape that seems more like a nightmare given form than an animal, built perfectly, utterly, for a world with no light at all. It drifts, slowly, perfectly still in the water column, barely moving. The water around it is just above freezing and dark and silent. And from its forehead, like a tiny, cold, flickering star, a single light pulses. Blue-white, cold, beautiful. A light it carries inside its own body, a light that is alive. The anglerfish. Tonight, we follow that light, down into the places where it glows, into the world of the deep sea's most haunting resident, and into one of the greatest mysteries that the ocean holds. There is no rush. The ocean is patient, and so am I, so take one more slow breath, let it go, and let yourself begin to descend. We begin at the surface. The ocean at the surface is not quiet, even at night, even in the darkness. The top layer of the sea is alive with movement, waves building and falling, currents shifting beneath the surface like slow rivers inside a larger river. Wind pressing down on the water in long, invisible furrows, pushing the surface into ridges that travel for thousands of miles across open ocean before spending themselves against a distant shore. If you were here, floating on your back in the open Pacific tonight, you would feel all of that energy moving through you. The slow, enormous lift and release of the swell, 6 seconds up, 6 seconds down, the great breathing rhythm of the sea. The cool salt water lapping at your ears in a constant low sound that is somewhere between white noise and music. The vast, dark sky above you stretched from horizon to horizon, full of more stars than you have ever seen from land, because out here, far from any coast, there is no light pollution, no haze, nothing between you and the universe above. The Milky Way is a broad, luminous band across the center of that sky. You can see it clearly enough to make out its structure. The dense, bright core toward the galactic center, the thinner arms curving away. 100 billion stars. Breathe in the salt air. And now, let yourself sink. Just a little. Just below the surface, the noise of wind and wave disappears the moment you go under, replaced by a deep, resonant hum, the sound of water in motion all around you, low and constant and strangely calming, like the inside of a seashell pressed against your ear, but all-encompassing, coming from every direction at once. This is the sunlit zone, the epipelagic layer. It stretches from the surface down to about 200 meters, and it is the only part of the ocean that most people ever think about when they think of the sea. The part where dolphins play and sea turtles dive in slow spirals and humpback whales sing to one another across hundreds of miles of open water. The part where the light comes through in long shifting rays of blue-white brilliance. At 5 meters below the surface, the light is still bright and clear. You can see the surface above you, rippling, moving, the sky visible through it, as a shifting mosaic of silver and white. A school of small silver fish passes overhead, between you and the surface, each one catching the light and throwing it back in brief, bright flashes. They move as a single organism, turning, banking, streaming upward, and then down, following some invisible collective instruction that no individual fish seems to be giving. This collective movement, the coordinated turning of a fish school, is called a murmuration in birds, and it has no precise equivalent term in fish, though the behavior is similar and equally mesmerizing. Each fish responds to the movement of its 7 nearest neighbors, not the whole school. No leader, no plan. No signal sent from one end to the other. Just local responses, propagating outward through the group at speeds faster than any individual could consciously coordinate, creating patterns of collective intelligence from nothing more than thousands of small creatures, each paying attention to what is immediately around them. The school disappears into the blue-green above you, and you breathe. In, out, down to 10 meters. The silver fish are gone. The water around you is deep blue-green, warm, and full of life too small to see clearly. Every cubic meter of ocean water contains millions of organisms, bacteria, archaea, viruses, single-celled algae called phytoplankton that form the base of nearly all ocean life. In the sunlit zone, these tiny organisms are photosynthesizing right now, converting sunlight into chemical energy, producing oxygen as a byproduct. Roughly half of the oxygen in every breath you take was produced not by land plants, not by trees, but by these invisible creatures in the sunlit ocean, 20 meters. The light is beginning to change in quality. The reds and oranges have been absorbed by the water above. Those longer wavelengths of light are the first to go, filtered out within the first few meters. What remains is blue. Deeper and purer blue the further you go. The world at 20 meters is a monochrome landscape of blue-grey shapes and shifting shadows, beautiful in its simplicity. A sea turtle passes, a loggerhead, massive and ancient-looking, its shell perhaps a meter across. It moves with an economy of effort that seems almost lazy. 4 slow sweeps of its flippers carry it 20 meters in a single unhurried arc. The loggerhead has been diving to these depths for millions of years. Its lineage predates the extinction of the dinosaurs. It is one of the oldest unchanged body plans in the ocean, and watching it move, you understand why nothing needed changing. It is already perfect. The turtle does not notice you. It continues its slow arc upward toward the surface, toward air, toward the night sky above. 50 meters. The world above you has become a distant shimmer, a pale, rippling ceiling that seems very far away. The water is cooler here. A quiet has settled over everything. Not the complete silence of deeper water, but a muffled, softened version of the world. The fish here are different. Deeper swimming. Darker in colour, less silver, and more dusky blue-grey. A school of mackerel drifts by in an elongated cloud, hundreds of them, each one perfectly mirroring the other's position and movement. the whole group flowing like a single, slow liquid through the water. Breathe in, breathe out. You are going deeper. 100 meters. The light has faded to a deep, heavy twilight. Not dark yet, not true darkness, but everything in the dim blue range. The kind of light that exists just after sunset when the sky still holds color, but the details of the world are going soft. Your eyes would work here barely. You would see shapes and outlines rather than sharp edges. Colors, if there were any, would be invisible. Everything is blue-gray and shadow. This is still the sunlit zone, technically, barely. A tiny fraction of the sunlight from the surface still reaches this depth. Not enough to read by, not enough to navigate by, but enough that a sensitive eye can detect it. Below 200 meters, there will be nothing. 150 meters. The mesopelagic zone begins here, the twilight zone. It will continue to 1,000 meters where the true midnight begins. And the twilight zone, despite its dim light and its cold, is one of the most densely populated regions of the ocean. Every evening, right now, tonight as you descend, an enormous movement is underway. One of the largest migrations of animals on Earth is happening in this water column. Millions upon millions of small creatures, lanternfish, copepods, euphorsiid shrimp, small squid, arrow worms are swimming upward. From depths of 600, 700, 800 meters, they rise each night to feed in the richer waters near the surface. And every dawn, before the light grows strong enough to expose them to predators, they descend again. Down and down, back into the dark, back to the cold. This daily vertical migration moves more biomass, more total mass of living creatures than any other animal migration on the planet. More than the wildebeest crossing the Serengeti. More than the monarch butterfly, more than anything on land, and almost no one knows about it. The reason this migration exists is one of the most elegant solutions to a problem in the natural world. The problem is this: the sunlit zone has food, phytoplankton, rich and abundant, but it is also well lit, which means predators can see you. The deep water is safe. Dark, hard to be seen in, but there is almost no food. The solution is to commute. Spend a day in the safety of darkness. Spend the night in the dangerous but food-rich sunlit zone. Every day, every single day, for every generation of every species that has evolved this strategy, the ocean runs a daily vertical commute. Invisibly, beneath every ship and every swimmer and every fishing boat on the surface of the sea. A commute larger, in terms of number of organisms, than all human commutes combined. A commute that has been running every day since before humans existed to observe it. Right now, as you descend, as we continue downward, the upward rush of the evening migration has slowed. The creatures that rose at dusk have fed and begun their pre-dawn descent. You can feel their movement in the water, or imagine it, a slow rain of small bodies heading downward past you as you continue down, going back to the dark, going home 200 meters. The last light fades, not all at once. The ocean doesn't turn off like a switch. It dims, the way a sky dims at dusk, gradually, relentlessly, the light growing thinner and thinner until at approximately 200 meters, the last photon of sunlight scatters and disperses into nothing. Below this line, no sunlight has ever reached. Not today. Not this year, not in recorded human history, not in 10,000 years of human civilization, not in 100,000 years of modern human existence, not since the continents reached their current configuration, not since the first fish evolved eyes hundreds of millions of years ago. The water below this line has always been dark. In the long, strange history of life on Earth, 4 billion years of organisms evolving and dying and diversifying and going extinct and evolving again, the water below 200 meters has never once been touched by sunlight. We pass through 200 meters now, and everything changes. The temperature drops sharply. We are crossing the thermocline, the invisible boundary layer between the warm surface water and the cold, ancient water below. Within just a few meters of vertical depth, the temperature goes from around 15 degrees Celsius to 8 or 9 degrees. The water feels different here, denser, heavier, more resistant to movement. Below the thermocline, the water barely moves. In the sunlit zone above, there was constant circulation, driven by wind, by temperature differences, by the energy of the sun. Down here, the water is ancient and still. Some of the deep water in the world's ocean basins has not been at the surface for over 1,000 years. It sank at high latitudes, the poles where cold, dense water descends, and has been travelling slowly in vast submarine rivers called thermohaline circulation across the ocean floor for centuries. The water you are passing through now may last have touched the atmosphere when medieval cathedrals were being built. It is a kind of stillness that most humans have no reference for. Not the stillness of a quiet room, where you can still hear your own heartbeat, still hear the hum of the building, still feel the air conditioning or the heating. Not the stillness of a calm lake, where the water moves in tiny, imperceptible wavelets. Not even the stillness of a very quiet night in a very remote place. An absolute stillness, three-dimensional, total. The kind of stillness that, if you were inside it, you would feel as a physical presence, the weight of all that motionless water in every direction simultaneously. Breathe. In. Out. You are descending slowly, very slowly. No rush. 250 meters. The first particles appear, marine snow. It begins as a few isolated flakes visible only because they catch the beam of an imaginary submersible light, small, pale, drifting downward with absolute slowness. 1, then 3, then a dozen, then everywhere. A constant, silent, three-dimensional snowfall filling the water in every direction, drifting down from the world above at a pace that makes ordinary snow seem frantic by comparison. Marine snow is not frozen, it is not ice or frost or anything formed by cold. It is organic material, the accumulated detritus of the sunlit world above. Dead phytoplankton, the discarded mucus-feeding webs of salps and pteropods, the molted exoskeletons of copepods, fish scales shed in the endless daily cycle of growth, fecal pellets from zooplankton broken down by bacteria into fine particles that drift for weeks before reaching the seafloor. Each particle is a tiny archive, a record of something that once lived in the light. A small cargo of carbon slowly descending from the living ocean above to the cold, dark below, carrying energy downward, feeding the darkness, making life possible in a zone where no sunlight ever arrives. This is one of the most important processes on Earth, the biological carbon pump. Every year, marine snow carries hundreds of millions of tons of carbon from the atmosphere through the sunlit surface ocean down into the deep, where it is sequestered for centuries or millennia. The deep ocean is one of the planet's largest carbon sinks, Without marine snow, without this constant gentle fall, the atmosphere would hold far more carbon dioxide. The planet would be warmer. The climate would be different in ways that cascade through every ecosystem on Earth. All of this happening silently, in the dark. You drift through it now. The particles swirl in the tiny currents of your imagined passage, spinning briefly before settling back into their slow, patient fall. 275 meters. The water is getting noticeably darker, noticeably cooler. The warmth of the surface, that shallow warmth heated by the sun each day, mixed by the wind each night, is fading fast. Your breathing has slowed since the surface, not dramatically, just slightly. 1 or 2 fewer breaths per minute than when you were in the bright blue water above. Your body is registering the descent, the quiet, the dimming. It is doing what bodies do when the world signals depth and stillness and dark. It is beginning, slowly, to let go. Let it. It knows what to do. 300 meters. It is worth pausing here for a moment to think about sound. The midnight zone is often described as silent, and in a sense it is. There are no waves, no wind, no crashing surf. But the deep ocean is not actually without sound. Water transmits sound extremely well, far better than air. Sound travels through water at roughly 1,500 meters per second, 4 times faster than it travels through air. And the ocean is full of sounds that travel extraordinary distances. Whale song, for instance. The low-frequency calls of blue and fin whales below 20 hertz, below the threshold of human hearing, can travel thousands of kilometers through the ocean. A whale calling in the North Atlantic can be detected under the right conditions in the South Atlantic. The ocean is for sound-producing creatures with the right ears, not silent at all. It is full of distant, far-travelling voices. There is a layer in the ocean called the SOFAR channel, sound fixing and ranging, centered at around 800 to 1,000 meters depth, where the combination of temperature and pressure creates a natural waveguide that traps and channels sound, allowing it to travel horizontally for extraordinary distances with minimal loss. Before satellite communication, the US Navy used the SOFAR channel to detect underwater explosions. The deep ocean hums and rumbles with sound, even in its darkest reaches. But right now, floating in the marine snow at 300 meters, what you hear, if you listen very carefully, very deeply, is nothing you can describe in ordinary language. It is the absence of the sounds you usually ignore. The hum of appliances, the distant traffic, the air moving through vents, all of that is gone. What remains in its place is something that isn't quite silence and isn't quite sound. It is the acoustic presence of an enormous body of water, perfectly still, extending in every direction for hundreds of miles. It is the sound of enough. Let that settle into you, the sound of enough. You have descended 300 meters into the ocean of a planet that is 4.5 billion years old. You are breathing slowly. You are warm. You are safe. You have, right now, in this moment, everything you need. That is enough. It has always been enough. Breathe in. Breathe out. 350 meters. 400 meters. The twilight is gone. You are in complete darkness now, not the darkness of a very dark room where your eyes adjust and find shapes and outlines, not the darkness of a countryside night where starlight and moonlight provide just enough to navigate by. This is the darkness of a sealed vault, total, three-dimensional, absolute. If you were here with your eyes open, you would see nothing. Nothing in any direction, not your own hands held before your face, not the marine snow falling past. Though it is there, you simply cannot see it. Your eyes are useless here. Every sense is useless here, except touch and hearing, and the water is so still, so quiet, that touch and hearing give you almost nothing either. You are suspended in nothing, and yet, far below, very far below, a tiny point of light pulses once, blue-white, cold, then again and again. The rhythm of it is slow and patient. There is nothing urgent about it. It is not a beacon. It is not a distress signal. It is simply light, pulsing in the dark. Because that is what it does. Something is down there. Something that makes its own light. And we are going to follow it 500 meters. We are deep in the twilight zone now, approaching the lower boundary where the mesopelagic gives way to the true midnight. At this depth, the pressure is approximately 50 times atmospheric pressure, 50 atmospheres pushing in from every direction simultaneously. If you were here unprotected, the pressure would be instantly lethal. Every gas-filled space in your body would collapse your lungs, the air spaces in your sinuses, your eardrums. And yet life is abundant here. A lanternfish passes close enough to imagine touching, barely 10 centimeters long, dark brown, with a row of small blue-white photophores along its belly arranged in a precise pattern. The photophores pulse gently. The lanternfish is ascending, making its nightly migration toward the surface, moving upward through the darkness with a slow, deliberate ease, navigating by senses we don't fully understand, guided by gradients of temperature and pressure and weight that we are only beginning to map. There are estimated to be more lanternfish in the world's oceans than any other group of vertebrates. Hundreds of millions of tons of lanternfish distributed throughout the twilight zones of evolution. Most people have never seen one. Most people don't know they exist, but they are here. They have always been here. They were here before humans walked the earth. They were here before the continents reached their current positions. They are one of the ocean's great, invisible success stories, a creature so perfectly adapted to its environment that evolution hasn't needed to change it significantly in tens of millions of years, 550 meters. Before we meet the next creature waiting in this darkness, take a breath, in, out. Notice how your body feels right now. Where you started this descent, how tense perhaps, how full of the day, and where you are now. Notice the weight in your limbs, the heaviness behind your eyes, the way your thoughts, if they are still there, have become slower and softer and less attached to anything that needs your attention. The ocean has a way of doing this. Even an imagined ocean, even the idea of descent, of going down, of passing through layers, of leaving the sunlit world behind, has a quality that the nervous system responds to, something primal, something very old. An instruction written into the architecture of a body long before language existed, when it is dark and cold and still and quiet, rest. Your body is following that instruction now. Good. Let it. A jellyfish. But not a jellyfish you would recognize from any aquarium or beach. This one is deep red, almost black in the little imagined light, with long trailing tentacles that extend for perhaps 2 meters below its bell. It pulses slowly. moving upward or downward, or perhaps just hovering, maintaining depth with minimal effort. There are no muscles strong enough to fight real currents down here. The deep-sea jellyfish drifts. It waits. Food comes to it or it doesn't. The deep sea has shaped every organism that lives here into a version of patience. There is no advantage to speed in the midnight zone. There is no food worth chasing. By the time you've spent the energy chasing it, the caloric gain may not compensate for the loss. Every creature here has learned, in the slow school of evolutionary time, to be still, to be quiet, to wait. This is one of the reasons the midnight zone is, paradoxically, good for sleep to think about. Down here, in the cold and the dark and the absolute stillness, everything is waiting, everything is resting, everything is doing the bare minimum. Just enough heartbeat, just enough metabolism, just enough movement to stay alive. It is a world at rest. Breathe with it. In, out. There is a concept in physiology called the dive response, or the mammalian diving reflex. When a mammal submerges in cold water, a cascade of automatic physiological changes occurs. The heart rate slows. Blood flow is redirected away from the limbs and toward the core organs, the heart, the brain, the lungs. The spleen contracts, releasing a reserve of oxygen-rich red blood cells into circulation. The entire body shifts into a mode of reduced expenditure and core preservation, a mode that allows diving mammals like seals and dolphins and whales to stay underwater far longer than any calculation based on their lung capacity would suggest. Humans have this reflex too. Face a human with cold water, and within a few seconds the heart rate begins to slow. Automatic, involuntary, a relic of our evolutionary history, shared with every other mammal, connecting us to the ocean in a way that goes all the way down to our physiology. Your body does not know you are imagining this descent. It only knows calm, dark, still, the suggestion of depth and quiet and cold, and it is responding the way bodies respond to such things, slower, quieter, inward, good. 600 meters, the light below us pulses again. Closer now, still distant, but closer. The pulse is regular, not perfectly regular, not mechanical, but regular in the way a heartbeat is regular. Alive, rhythmic, persistent, we follow it. 700 meters. A viperfish. It appears from the dark, suddenly, materializing from nothing as deep-sea creatures do when a light source finds them. Perhaps 30 centimeters long, elongated, dark. But the detail that catches your attention immediately are the teeth. The viperfish, Choliodus sloani, has teeth so long that they cannot fit inside its closed mouth. They extend outside the jaw like transparent daggers, long curved fangs made of the same material as the body's scales, curved inward so that anything impaled on them cannot pull free. The viperfish has photophores, bioluminescent organs, running along the length of its belly in 2 rows. It also has a photophore inside its mouth set behind the teeth, positioned to glow and attract curious creatures toward those curved fangs. The viperfish is the anglerfish's evolutionary cousin in strategy, if not in form, both creatures using light in the dark as a tool of hunting, both patient, both waiting. The viperfish regards you for a moment, or seems to in your imagination, its small eyes rotating slightly in their sockets. Then it moves, slowly, into the dark beyond your imagined light, and is gone. 750 meters. There are approximately 250 known species of viper fish in the family Stomidae, the dragonfish family. Many of them are so specialized for life in the midnight zone that they cannot survive being brought to the surface. The pressure inside their cells, the concentrations of certain solids, the precise balance of chemistry that keeps their proteins folded and functional at depth is calibrated to conditions that simply do not exist at the surface. When they are brought up in nets or by submersible, they die before reaching the top. This has been one of the great challenges of deep-sea biology. You can't study what you can't keep alive. Every creature we have examined, every anglerfish, every viperfish, every dragonfish, has been a dead specimen studied after the fact, its behavior inferred from anatomy and the brief seconds of footage captured by underwater cameras before the submersible moved on. We have never seen an anglerfish hunt live in real time, from close range, for more than a few minutes. We have never watched the full behavioral repertoire of any midnight zone creature for longer than the duration of a submersible dive. The midnight zone holds its secrets partly because of pressure and darkness, and partly because the very act of sending anything to observe it disrupts the conditions that make it what it is. It is a world that resists being known. And that resistance is part of what makes it, even in imagination, even in the journey of a sleep documentary, so compelling. 800 meters. The oarfish. You almost miss it because it barely registers as a solid object. It is so thin, so long, so barely there. A ribbon of silver, perhaps 6 meters in length, moving in slow undulations through the water, at the very edge of your imagined light. It is like watching a piece of tinsel in a gentle wind, except the tinsel is 6 meters long and alive. Oarfish are the longest bony fish in the ocean. They have been measured at over 11 meters, longer than a city bus. For centuries, sailors who encountered them near the surface, usually sick or dying animals, which is the only time oarfish come close to the surface, reported seeing sea serpents, long, snake-like bodies, undulating movement, occasional red-plumed dorsal fins mistaken for a mane of scales or flame. The mythology of sea monsters, of serpents and krakens and leviathans, did not come from nothing. It came from glimpses, from dark water and poor light and creatures that the human eye was not prepared to process correctly. The oarfish is real. It has always been real, and it is stranger than most of the monsters it inspired. It fades back into the dark. 900 meters. We are nearly at the threshold. The true midnight zone begins at 1,000 meters, and here, just above it, the water is already beginning to feel different, quieter, more still. The pressure is almost 90 atmospheres. I want you to pause here for a moment and simply appreciate what it means to be 1 kilometer below the surface of the ocean. 1 kilometer of water above your head. If you were standing at the bottom of the ocean at this depth and you looked straight up, the surface, the boundary between water and air, between ocean and sky, would be 1 kilometer above you. The Eiffel Tower is 330 meters tall. You would need to stack 3 Eiffel Towers on top of each other to reach the surface from here. 1 kilometer of water, cold, dark, and absolutely silent, and we are about to go deeper, 950 meters. We are about to cross the most significant boundary in the ocean. At 1,000 meters, the mesopelagic zone ends and the bathypelagic begins. The twilight zone gives way to the midnight zone. The last traces of ambient light disappear entirely. Before we cross, I want you to do something. Breathe in one more time, a slow, full breath. Hold it for just a moment and release it entirely, all the way, empty. And in that emptiness, in the pause between one breath and the next, notice the quiet, the specific quality of quiet that exists in that space, between one breath ending and the next beginning. A gap in the noise of being alive. That gap is what exists below 1,000 meters. Not a brief pause, but a permanent one. An eternal gap between one state and another. Not death, life, but life so stripped of what we call living that the difference requires new vocabulary. We are going into that gap now, 1,000 meters. We cross the threshold. Welcome to the Midnight Zone, the bathypelagic layer, named for the Greek word for deep, bathos. The zone that begins at 1,000 meters and extends to 4,000 meters below the surface. 3 full kilometers of ocean in which no sunlight has ever penetrated, in which no photosynthesis occurs, in which the only light that exists is the light that living creatures make themselves. Water temperature, just above 4 degrees Celsius, cold and perfectly still and very, very dark. Pressure, 100 atmospheres pressing inward, no currents worth measuring, no seasonal variation, no summer and winter, no warmer months and cooler months. The Midnight Zone does not know about seasons. It does not know about years. It exists in a kind of eternal, unchanging present that makes our sense of time seem almost arbitrary. The Midnight Zone has survived every ice age, every mass extinction, every geological upheaval, every catastrophe that has remade the surface of this planet has passed over the Midnight Zone like weather passes over the deep basement of a large building. Unnoticed, or barely noticed, its effects absorbed and dampened by the sheer depth and volume and thermal inertia of all that water. In some ways, the Midnight Zone is the most stable ecosystem on Earth. And here she is. The anglerfish. She is perhaps 20 centimeters long, about the size of a large baseball roughly, though she is roughly spherical, slightly flattened. Her body is unlike any fish body you have seen in any aquarium. There are no bright colours, no streamlined shape, no graceful fins. She is built for function, not beauty, or perhaps built for a beauty we don't recognize, the beauty of pure adaptation, of something that has evolved for exactly one environment and been refined by that environment over hundreds of millions of years until nothing remains that isn't necessary. Her skin is loose and dark, a deep brown-black that absorbs light rather than reflecting it. Under the pressure, at this depth, her body has no rigid swim bladder, the gas-filled organ that controls buoyancy in surface fish. A swim bladder would implode at this depth. Instead, her body tissue has evolved to be close to neutrally buoyant at 1,000 meters. She drifts, requiring almost no energy to maintain her depth. Her eyes are small and pale. This surprises people who learn about anglerfish. They imagine enormous eyes, adapted to see in the dark. But the truth is that eyes are metabolically expensive. They require oxygen, nutrients, continuous maintenance. In an environment with essentially no light to detect, eyes are almost useless. The anglerfish's eyes are not completely vestigial. She can still detect the bioluminescence of other creatures, but they are much smaller relative to her body's size than the eyes of fish that live in the twilight zone above. Her lateral line, however, the system of sensory organs running along the sides of fish that detects pressure, changes and water movement, is exquisitely developed. She can sense the pressure wave of a small creature moving through the water from considerable distance. She can feel the ocean the way we cannot. And then the mouth. The mouth is the most remarkable structure on her body. It is enormous, proportionally far larger than the mouth of any surface fish of comparable size. When fully open, her lower jaw drops to nearly 90 degrees from horizontal, creating an aperture, an opening, large enough to engulf prey considerably larger than herself. Her stomach, like her skin, is elastic, expandable to hold prey much larger than her usual resting size. Cases have been documented of anglerfish caught with prey inside them that were larger than the anglerfish itself before the meal. Her teeth are long, 3-4 centimeters, and transparent, like glass rods tapered to sharp points. They curve backward toward her throat. This is significant. The curve means that once something touches those teeth, it cannot back out. Any forward movement pushes it deeper. The teeth are a trap, a funnel, a one-way door, and from her forehead, from a modified dorsal spine called the elysium, which means enticement, hangs the esker, the lure, a fleshy, bulb-shaped appendage, dangling perhaps 5 centimeters in front of her face, and from within it, light. The light of the anglerfish's lure is one of the most studied and still most mysterious phenomena in marine biology. The light is not produced by the anglerfish herself. She cannot generate it. She does not have the biochemical machinery. The light is produced by billions of bacteria of the genus Alliivibrio and related groups living inside the esker in a specialized light organ. The bacteria are bioluminescent. They produce light through a chemical reaction involving a molecule called luciferin, which reacts with oxygen in the presence of an enzyme called luciferase to produce cold light, light produced with almost no heat, with almost no wasted energy. This luciferin-luciferase reaction is one of the most ancient chemical reactions known to biology. It appears in organisms across the entire tree of life, in bacteria, in dinoflagellates, in jellyfish, in squid, in fish, in fireflies on land. It almost certainly evolved once billions of years ago and has been passed around the living world ever since, transferred horizontally between lineages in ways we are still mapping. The light you see in the anglerfish's esker connects her, biochemically, to a firefly blinking in a meadow in Virginia. They share, across hundreds of millions of years of separate evolution, the same ancient chemistry of light. The anglerfish provides the bacteria with nutrients and a safe, warm, relatively environment inside the esker. The bacteria provide the anglerfish with the only thing she needs that evolution cannot give her directly: light. The partnership is obligate. Neither can live without the other. The bacteria cannot survive outside the esker for long. The anglerfish without the bacteria is dark, a predator without a lure, a fisher without a hook. There is something quietly profound about that dependency. Two entirely different forms of life, a vertebrate fish and a single-celled bacterium separated by billions of years of evolutionary divergence, each unable to fully function without the other. The anglerfish provides shelter and nutrients. The bacteria provide light. Neither planned this arrangement, neither chose it. It emerged, slowly, over deep time, from a relationship between an ancestor of the anglerfish and an ancestor of the bacteria that began perhaps as an infection and became, over millions of generations, an indispensable partnership. This is how much of life works in the deep ocean and out of it, not in isolation, but in webs of dependency so old and so intricately woven that separating the participants becomes meaningless. The anglerfish is not one organism, she is a consortium, fish and bacteria, and the ancient chemical machinery they share, all running together in the cold dark, producing a light that belongs to both of them. You are also a consortium. Your gut contains more bacterial cells than human cells. Your mitochondria, the energy-producing structures in every one of your cells, are the descendants of bacteria that were engulfed by early cells billions of years ago and never released. Your immune system runs partly on the microbial communities that live on and in you. You are not one organism, you are an ecology. Down here, in the anglerfish's world, that truth is visible. The lure makes it visible. The light is the product of a partnership older than any individual, shining in the dark. And right now, your body, that ecosystem of trillions, is doing what it always does at night, maintaining, repairing, resetting, running its own quiet processes in the dark, without your supervision, without your interference, because it knows what to do. This strategy, advertise, strike, is the same one in different forms across the midnight zone. It is the strategy of the viperfish, which holds its photophores inside its open mouth like a lit lantern. It is the strategy of several species of deep-sea dragonfish, which hang bioluminescent barbels below their chins like baited hooks. It is the strategy of certain deep-sea squid, which flash patterns of light on their skin to attract prey, light as lure, patience as power. In a food-scarce environment, the creature that spends the least energy acquiring the most nutrition wins. The anglerfish has perfected that equation over hundreds of millions of years of refinement. She is not hunting, she is fishing, and the lure is the only tool she needs. The lure pulses once, twice. The pulse is not random. The anglerfish can control the intensity and rhythm of her lure to some extent, a gentle, irregular pulse that mimics the bioluminescence of small organisms, suggesting food rather than predator. In the midnight zone, where every source of light is worth investigating, this is irresistible. Something moves toward her, in the dark. We cannot see it yet, but she can feel it. The pressure wave of its approach detected by her lateral line, giving her the precise distance, direction, and speed of the approaching creature. She waits. She does not move. She does not tense. She simply waits in the dark, as she always waits. 10 centimeters, 5 centimeters. The lure pulses, and then the mouth opens. The suction created by the sudden expansion of that enormous mouth cavity pulls water inward faster than any prey can respond to. Everything in that column of water, the prey, the particles around it, the tiny creatures that happen to be nearby, all of it rushes inward. The teeth close. The prey hits the back of that curved array of transparent fangs and cannot back out. In less than 1/10 of a second it is over. The anglerfish returns to stillness. The lure resumes its patient pulse. She has eaten. She will not need to eat again, perhaps, for days or weeks. Down here, metabolism is slow. Energy is carefully conserved. A single meal if it is large enough, can sustain an anglerfish for extraordinary lengths of time, and the management of energy in the midnight zone is nothing short of extraordinary. The anglerfish's heart beats very slowly, far slower than a surface fish of equivalent size. Her muscles, when not in use, cost almost nothing to maintain. Her brain, small, as we noted, relative to her body, runs on a minimum of glucose. The bacteria in her esker are metabolically her most expensive organ, requiring a constant supply of nutrients to keep the light alive. Everything else has been reduced, trimmed, minimized to the absolute requirements of survival. The anglerfish is, in a sense, a masterpiece of subtraction. Evolution looked at all the things that make a fish, the scales, the swim bladder, the large brain, the active metabolism, the brightly coloured body, the fast twitch muscle, the complex behavioural repertoire, and removed everything that was not essential. What remained is the anglerfish, a lure, a mouth, a set of reproductive organs and barely enough machinery to keep those three things alive in the dark. She's not simple. Simplicity implies a lack of complexity. She is essential. She contains exactly as much as she needs, in exactly the right arrangement, to do exactly what she is here to do. There is a kind of peace in that. You breathe in, out. She drifts. The darkness is absolute. The marine snow drifts past, and somewhere in the water around her, in the midnight zone, other creatures pursue their own slow, patient existences. 1,200 meters. The dragonfish, the black dragonfish, Idiocanthus atlanticus, is perhaps the most visually dramatic creature in the midnight zone. Imagine a creature perhaps 40 centimeters long, eel-like in form, jet black, with a chin barbel that extends below its jaw and terminates in a bioluminescent tip. Its mouth, proportionally, is even larger than the anglerfish's, hinged so that the entire lower jaw can fold down flat, allowing the dragonfish to take prey that approaches from below. But the most extraordinary thing about the dragonfish is its eyes. The dragonfish possesses what are called tubular eyes, elongated, forward-facing, capable of detecting extraordinarily faint light. And within the retina of these eyes is a pigment found in almost no other animal on Earth. Chlorophyll-based pigment, similar to the pigment in plants and algae. This pigment makes the dragonfish sensitive to wavelengths of red light that most deep-sea creatures cannot detect at all. This matters because the dragonfish can produce red light from a photophore located below each eye. Red light at this depth is effectively invisible to every other animal in the midnight zone. Only the dragonfish can see it. The dragonfish uses red light the way a military unit uses infrared, as a private searchlight that illuminates prey while remaining invisible to that prey and invisible to other predators. The dragonfish hunts in a darkness within darkness. Its prey never see it coming. 1,400 meters. A hatchetfish, smaller than your palm, coin flat, with enormous upward-pointing eyes that take up most of its tiny face. The hatchetfish lives in the lower twilight zone and upper midnight zone, and it has evolved one of the most elegant solutions to the problem of camouflage in this environment. At these depths, there is still a tiny amount of light coming from above, not enough to see by, but enough to detect. Predators below the hatchetfish look upward and see the fish silhouetted against this faint background light from the surface. To a predator, With sensitive eyes, the hatchetfish's silhouette would be clearly visible, so the hatchetfish generates its own light from photophores precisely arranged along its belly, calibrated in intensity and direction to exactly match the background light coming from above. The hatchetfish's belly glow is a mirror image of the light from the surface, adjusted constantly as depth and water clarity change. From below, a predator looking upward sees no silhouette. The hatchetfish has, in effect, made its bottom half invisible. Counter-illumination, one of the most sophisticated forms of camouflage on Earth. And it works in near-total darkness. Think about what that means for a moment. An animal so small you could hold it in your palm has evolved a real-time, active, continuously self-adjusting camouflage system using bioluminescence. In an environment where the difference between being seen and not being seen is the difference between life and death. The hatchetfish does not think about this. It does not calculate. Its nervous system simply does it. The way your body regulates your temperature without your permission, the way your heart adjusts its rate to your activity without your conscious instruction. The deep ocean is full of biology that does extraordinary things automatically. Things that no engineer has been able to replicate in any machine. Things that evolution assembled piece by piece over millions of generations, refining and adjusting and discarding what didn't work, until what remained was something so precisely calibrated that calling it engineering seems almost too simple. Life is the deepest engineer, and the ocean is its greatest workshop. 1,500 meters. We are descending steadily now. The cold is profound, just above 3 degrees Celsius. The pressure has reached approximately 150 atmospheres. The stillness of the water is complete. And in this stillness, another creature drifts past. The vampire squid. Its name, Vampiratothis infernalis, the vampire squid from hell, was given by a German marine biologist in 1903, and while it sounds dramatic, it is not entirely unearned. The vampire squid is jet black. Its 8 arms are connected by a web of tissue that, when spread, looks like a dark cloak. Its eyes, proportionally the largest eyes of any animal relative to body size on Earth, are deep red, or sometimes blue, depending on the light and the angle of observation. The vampire squid is not actually a squid. It is not actually an octopus either. It occupies its own order, Vampiromorphida, a lineage separate from both squid and octopus, a living fossil representing a branch of the cephalopod family tree that has changed very little in over 300 million years. The vampire squid is, in a meaningful sense, older than the dinosaurs. When threatened, the vampire squid turns itself inside out, pulling its webbed arms up over its body to expose the inner surface, which is covered in soft, fleshy spines. The overall effect, seen through a submersible light in the dark, is startling. A creature that appears to transform before your eyes, wrapping itself in its own body like a living cape. But the vampire squid does not hunt the way its name suggests. It does not pursue prey. It does not capture fast-moving creatures with speed and force. It drifts. It extends 2 long, thin filaments, up to 8 times its own body length, into the surrounding water, and these filaments collect marine snow, dead organic particles, falling detritus. The vampire squid eats marine snow. It is one of the very few animals in the ocean that subsists almost entirely on dead material raining down from above. making it one of the most energy-efficient creatures in the midnight zone, perfectly adapted for a food-scarce environment. There is something beautiful about that. The vampire squid from hell, with its dramatic name and its red eyes and its cloak of webbed arms, drifting through the darkness, gathering particles of dead algae and fish scales and the shed exoskeletons of small crustaceans, patient and still and content, 1,600 meters. The anglerfish's lure pulses somewhere nearby. You can feel the rhythm of it more than see it, a slow, patient beat of cold light that has been there since before this journey began and will continue long after it ends. The anglerfish does not know you are here. She does not know that an organism from the surface world, warm, fragile air-breathing, has come all this way just to watch her lure pulse in the dark. She's simply here, as she has always been, as her ancestors were before her, in water this cold and this dark, for hundreds of millions of years, 1,700 meters. Let's talk about pressure. You may have wondered as we've descended what it would feel like. The pressure at this depth, approximately 170 atmospheres, is difficult to convey in ordinary terms. But consider this. At sea level, the atmosphere above your head exerts a pressure of about 14.7 pounds per square inch on every surface of your body. You never notice it because it has always been there, because every cell in your body is pressurized to match it, because you evolved in this pressure and have never known anything else. At 1,700 meters, the pressure is 170 times that. 170 times 14.7 pounds per square inch on every square inch of your body simultaneously, from every direction. The weight of 170 atmospheres pressing inward from above, from below, from the sides, from every angle. And yet, life is here. The anglerfish is here, her body built to thrive in this pressure, her cells containing no gas spaces that could collapse, her proteins evolved to maintain their shape and function at temperatures and pressures that would denature any surface-adapted protein. Deep-sea organisms contain specially adapted versions of the same biochemical machinery that surface life uses, modified at the molecular level to work under conditions that would destroy their surface counterparts. Life has not merely survived at this depth. Life has been shaped by it, refined by it, made extraordinary by it. Every creature in the midnight zone is a testament to what evolution can do when given enough time and a sufficiently extreme environment to work with. 1,700 meters. The pressure here is 170 atmospheres. To put that in terms the human body understands, the deepest any unprotected human has ever dived on a single breath is roughly 300 meters. At that depth, on that breath, the lungs compress to the size of a fist. The diver must ascend before the oxygen runs out, before the pressure does damage that cannot be undone. 300 meters is the absolute physiological frontier, the utmost edge of what the human body, unaided, can endure in the ocean. We are at 1,700 meters, more than 5 times that depth, in a place that was not built for things like us, warm, air-breathing, metabolically expensive things from the surface world. The ocean at this depth was built for the anglerfish, for the dragonfish, for the vampire squid, for creatures that run cold and slow and still. They belong here. We are visitors. And in that visiting, in the act of going somewhere that was not made for you, of spending time in a world that operates by entirely different rules, something shifts in the mind. The ordinary anxieties and concerns of the surface world lose their grip slightly, because down here, none of them apply. Down here, there is only cold and dark and pressure, and the patient pulse of light. Breathe. In, out. 1,800 meters. The anglerfish has been with us for a long time now. Let's return to her for a moment, not to study her further, but simply to be near her. She is drifting, barely moving. The esker turns very slowly at the end of the Elysium, not from any deliberate movement on her part, but from the faint, almost imperceptible microcurrents of the midnight zone. The light pulses once, twice. A slow, cold rhythm. She has been doing this for months perhaps, this particular stretch of water, this particular depth range, drifting through it day after day, though day and night have no meaning here, lure pulsing, waiting, occasionally striking. She has no curiosity about what surrounds her. No wonder at the marine snow drifting past, no sense of the vastness of the ocean above and below. She simply is, present, patient, functional, alive, in the only way she knows how to be. And there is something deeply restful about witnessing that, something that the human nervous system, so accustomed to the endless input and demand and stimulation of the surface world, responds to with something like relief. She doesn't need to know, she doesn't need to wonder, she doesn't need to plan or remember or anticipate. She only needs to drift and to pulse and to wait. And sometimes that is enough. Sometimes for a few hours in the dark, that is all any of us needs to do. Breathe in, breathe out. A deep sea squid drifts by, pale, almost translucent, perhaps 60 centimeters long, including its tentacles. Its mantle is covered in chromatophores, pigment cells, that it can expand and contract to change the pattern of its skin in milliseconds. Down here in the dark, this ability seems pointless. What is camouflage in a world of no light? But deep sea squid are not always in the dark. They make vertical migrations too, ascending, hunting, descending again. And they carry their chromatophores down into the midnight zone as a vestige, or perhaps as a signaling mechanism. Patterns of bioluminescent and reflective color used for communication between individuals of the same species in a private language of skin that we are only beginning to decipher. The squid is gone before you can watch it long. 1,850 meters. The giant squid, Architeuthis dux, lives somewhere in the midnight zone. We know this because sperm whales, which dive to 2,000 meters and beyond in search of prey, return to the surface with giant squid beaks in their stomachs and circular sucker scars on their skin, each scar the diameter of a dinner plate. The suckers on a giant squid's arms are lined with sharp, serrated chitinous rings. The squid uses them to grip prey and, apparently, to fight back against sperm whales. Giant squid can reach 13 meters in length, among the largest invertebrates on Earth. They have the largest eyes of any living animal, 30 centimeters in diameter, the size of a dinner plate, designed to detect the bioluminescence of approaching sperm whales at distance. For most of human history, giant squid were known only from fragments, washed-up carcasses, pieces found in whale stomachs, tentacle sections recovered from deep sea nets. The mythology of the kraken, the enormous sea monster capable of pulling ships beneath the surface, was built from glimpses of this animal. The first live giant squid was photographed in its natural habitat only in 2004. It was filmed in the wild for the first time only in 2012. For all of human civilization before that, for every century of sailors and fishermen and marine biologists, the giant squid was known but unseen. A creature whose existence was certain, but whose living reality was entirely unknown. We still know almost nothing about its behavior, its social structure, its lifespan, its reproduction. It is one of the largest animals in the ocean and one of the most mysterious. It lives right now, somewhere in the water around you. The giant squid is a reminder, a large, tentacled, dinner-plate-eyed reminder that mystery is not something that belongs only to the past, or to distant galaxies, or to microscopic realms beyond the resolution of ordinary vision. Mystery lives right here, on this planet, in this ocean, in depths that exist directly below ships and swimmers and coastlines. The ocean floor is as close in absolute terms as the top of a tall mountain, and it contains things we have never seen. There is wonder available at this depth, right now, tonight, and it asks nothing of you except to be still enough to receive it. 1,900 meters. The marine snow is still falling. It has been falling since 300 meters. It will be falling at 4,000 meters. It has been falling in one form or another every day since the first phytoplankton evolved in the sunlit surface ocean billions of years ago. The sea floor of the midnight zone is covered in the accumulated remnants of all that marine snow, a soft, fine grey-brown sediment that holds the memory of everything that has ever lived above it. Scientists have drilled cores from the ocean sediment and read them the way you read the rings of a tree. Each layer a record of a moment in the ocean's past. The composition of the shells of microscopic organisms, the ratios of isotopes in their calcium carbonate, the presence or absence of certain chemical signatures that indicate temperature or ice cover, or the productivity of the surface ocean at that time. From these cores, scientists have reconstructed the history of the Earth's climate going back tens of millions of years. The ocean floor is a library. The marine snow is the ink. Some cores contain, at their deepest, readable layer, the chemical signature of the asteroid impact that ended the Cretaceous period, 66 million years ago. A thin, dark layer, rich in iridium, an element rare on Earth, but common in certain types of asteroid. A layer deposited in a geological instant, when an object 10 kilometers across struck the shallow seas of what is now Mexico and sent a shockwave through the atmosphere and the ocean simultaneously. The ocean sediment recorded it, held it, and 66 million years later, a scientist extracted a core, sliced it open, and read it. The ocean keeps records the way nothing else on Earth does, patiently, in the dark, without forgetting. Below your imagined self, the sediment is accumulating right now, 1 millimeter every 1,000 years. The layer being laid down tonight carries the chemical signature of this year, this night, this water. In some unimaginable future, what is happening right now, the marine snow falling, the anglerfish pulsing, the deep water circulating, is being recorded. The ocean is writing tonight, in the dark, in the cold, in the absolute patient silence of the abyss, 1,950 meters. Another creature passes, briefly, at the edge of imagined light. The fang-tooth fish, Anoplagaster cornuta, one of the most dramatic-looking animals in the ocean. Its body is only about 16 centimeters long, but its teeth are disproportionate, even by midnight zone standards. The fangtooth has the largest teeth of any fish in the ocean relative to its body size. Its lower canines are so long that the fish has evolved special sockets on either side of its brain, indentations in the skull, to accommodate the teeth when the mouth closes. Otherwise, the teeth would puncture the brain. The fangtooth is dark brown to black, with a large head and enormous eyes. It hunts by sight and by sensing pressure waves, ambushing prey in the dark of the midnight zone. It passes. It is gone. 2,000 meters. 2 full kilometers below the surface of the ocean. I want you to rest here for a moment. Feel your body. Feel the bed or the couch or the floor beneath you. Feel the warmth of the blankets or the cool of the air, or whatever surrounds you. You are not down here. You are up there, in the warmth and the light and the air. You are safe. You are comfortable. But in your mind, in the part of you that has been following this descent, you are 2 kilometers beneath the surface, and the midnight zone stretches below you for another 2 kilometers still. And below that, the abyssal plain. And below that, the Hadal Zone, the deepest ocean trenches, plunging to nearly 11,000 meters. The ocean goes down so much further than we tend to imagine. Consider the layers one by one stacked above you right now. But first, breathe in. Hold it for just a moment at the top of the breath. Feel the fullness of your lungs. Feel the slight pressure of held air. The pause at the top. The moment just before release. And release slowly, all the way out. The pause at the bottom of the breath. The gap before the next one is something meditators call the kumbhaka, the still point. For just a moment, you are neither inhaling nor exhaling. You are simply here, held in suspension, neither going in nor coming out, a moment of pure presence in the gap between one breath and the next. In the midnight zone, in the cold and the dark, the entire ocean feels like that, like a held breath, like the pause between one thing and another, like the gap in the middle of everything, where nothing is required of you and the world simply is. You are in that gap right now. Rest in it, just for a moment. And then the next breath comes. The abyssal plain is at 4,000 meters. Below you, but not by much in ocean terms. It is flat, among the flattest surfaces on the planet, carpeted in fine sediment, dotted occasionally with manganese nodules the size of potatoes that have grown one atom at a time over millions of years. The abyssal plain covers more than 50% of the Earth's surface. It is the single largest habitat on Earth, and it has been explored less thoroughly than the surface of the Moon. Below the abyssal plain, in a few places where tectonic plates bend and dive beneath each other, the seafloor drops again into the Hadal Zone, the trenches, the deepest places on Earth. The Mariana Trench in the Pacific drops to 10,924 meters, nearly 11 kilometers below the surface. If you placed Mount Everest at the bottom of the Mariana Trench, its peak would still be more than 2 kilometers underwater. At the bottom of the Mariana Trench, the pressure is over 1,000 atmospheres. The temperature is just above freezing. And yet, life. Snailfish discovered in 2019 swimming at 8,178 meters, the deepest a fish has ever been filmed. Amphipods, tiny shrimp-like crustaceans swarming in the sediment at full trench depth, feeding on the organic material that rains down from all those kilometers of water above. Bacteria in the sediment itself, metabolizing, dividing, persisting in conditions that seem, to any surface-evolved intuition, incompatible with life. Life has no flaw. Every time we extend our reach, we find more of it. The ocean goes down so much further than we tend to imagine. Breathe in. Hold it gently. Let it go. 2,100 meters. The anglerfish pulses. She is not far from us, perhaps 30 meters in the darkness, in the direction of the pulse. She has been here the entire time, or one like her. Drifting, waiting, the esker turning slowly at the end of the Elysium, the bacteria inside it feeding on nutrients from her blood, the light emerging from that tiny wet organ in cold, blue-white waves of photons, travelling outward in every direction into the absolute black. She has been waiting like this her entire adult life. She will continue waiting like this for the rest of it. For the anglerfish, there is no difference between hunting and resting. There is only drifting and the pulse of the light and occasionally the opening of the mouth. This is her entire existence, and yet she is extraordinarily successful. Her species, and there are over 200 known species of anglerfish distributed across the deep oceans of the world, has survived 5 mass extinctions. The asteroid that killed the dinosaurs 66 million years ago, which wiped out 76% of all species on Earth. The end Permian extinction 252 million years ago, which killed 96% of all marine species. 5 of the 6 great dying events in Earth's history. The anglerfish survived all of them. Down here in the dark, below the reach of whatever was killing everything above, the anglerfish drifted and waited and pulsed her light. And when the catastrophes ended and life rebuilt itself in the sunlit waters above, the anglerfish was still here, patient, cold, still waiting. Different species have evolved their lures in different directions. Some have simple round eskers that glow steadily. Some have complex, branching eskers with multiple light-producing regions that can create patterns. Some species have eskers that dangle on very long elysia, extended fishing rods that wave the lure far from the fish's body, giving prey more time to approach before the strike. Some have eskers that look remarkably like small crustaceans, a mimicry so precise that it suggests an evolutionary arms race between the anglerfish and the prey species it targets. In some deep-sea species, the esker pulses in patterns that resemble the bioluminescence of dinoflagellates, single-celled plankton that flash when disturbed. A small fish, conditioned by millions of years of evolution to investigate these flashes as a sign of nearby prey, would swim toward the esker, thinking it was about to find something to eat. And instead, the anglerfish is patient and she is clever, not consciously, not deliberately, but in the structural cleverness of an animal refined by selection, to be as effective as possible at exactly one thing: 2,200 meters. Now, let me tell you about the mating. The female anglerfish you have been watching, large, lure-bearing, patient, ancient, she is only half the story. The male anglerfish is a completely different creature. You would not, looking at them side by side, immediately recognize them as the same species. The male is tiny. A fully grown male anglerfish is roughly the size of a large grape. Perhaps 2 or 3 centimeters in length, he is thin and elongated, almost worm-like. He has no lure, he has no large teeth. His eyes, however, are enormous, proportionally the largest eyes of any vertebrate animal, and his olfactory organs, his sense of smell, are similarly overdeveloped. He has been built by evolution for exactly one task: finding a female. When a male anglerfish hatches and reaches maturity, which happens quickly because a male who takes too long is a male who never reproduces, he stops eating. His digestive system begins to atrophy. He is on borrowed time. He begins to swim. Through the midnight zone, through the dark, through water at near freezing temperatures and pressures that would kill a surface animal. He swims, guided by his enormous olfactory system, following chemical traces in the water, pheromones, specific molecules released by females of his species into the surrounding ocean. Think about what this means. He is swimming through 3-dimensional darkness. No up, no down, no landmarks, no light. Tracking molecules that have diffused from a source that may be hundreds of meters away. The concentration gradient of those molecules decreasing the further you get from the source is his only map. He follows the increasing concentration. He swims toward the smell of a female, through the dark, through the cold, through the pressure, through the absolute stillness. He may swim for days, for weeks. In those weeks, he eats nothing. He has no functional digestive system by this stage. It has already begun atrophying. He runs on stored reserves only. He is, in the truest biological sense, racing against his own body. Every day of searching is a day of depletion. The longer he searches without finding a female, the less likely he is to survive the mating process, even if he does find her. His entire existence, from hatching to this moment, has been oriented toward a single event that may or may not occur before his reserves run out. He does not know this in any conscious sense. He does not plan, he does not worry, he swims. He follows the gradient of pheromone molecules through the dark. He follows the only direction his biology knows how to follow. It is one of the most poignant stories in the natural world. He may never find her. Many male anglerfish, scientists believe, die without reproducing, exhausted, their borrowed time spent, their bodies sinking slowly through the water column to join the marine snow. But some find her. And what happens next is one of the strangest events in the biological world. He bites her. He swims to her, to the source of the pheromones, and he bites into her flank, or her belly, or the underside of her body. And then something happens that has no equivalent anywhere else in the vertebrate kingdom. He fuses. His lips and his face begin to physically merge with her skin. The tissues grow together. The boundary between his body and hers dissolves. His circulatory system, the blood vessels in his face and lips, begins to connect with her circulatory system, the blood vessels in her skin. A shared circulation develops. His blood and her blood begin slowly to flow through a common network. Over days and weeks, his body continues to fuse and to change. His eyes, those enormous, expensive, beautiful eyes he used to find her, degenerate. There is nothing more to see. His digestive system disappears. She feeds him through their shared blood supply. Most of his brain dissolves and is reabsorbed. Everything that made him an independent creature, an organism capable of independent thought and navigation and action, dissolves. What remains at the end of this process is a pair of testes and a connection to her circulatory system, kept alive by her blood, sustained by her body, entirely dependent on her for every biological need. The male anglerfish has become part of the female. Not a parasite, not exactly, because she chooses this in the sense that evolution has shaped her to accept it. Not a symbiont in the conventional sense, she gains something, but he gives up everything. He has become an organ, a functional attachment, a permanent living source of reproductive material fused into her body, carried with her through the dark for the rest of her life, and she can carry more than one. The most extraordinary example ever documented was a female anglerfish recovered from the deep ocean with 8 males fused to her body. 8 separate individuals, 8 separate genetic identities, each one fused at a different location on her body, each one reduced to a bag of reproductive tissue kept alive by her blood. 8 males. Each one had once been a small, fast-swimming, large-eyed creature that had navigated the midnight zone by sense of smell alone, found a female, bitten in, and fused, each one carrying a different genetic profile, each one contributing to a genetic diversity that would have been impossible if she had mated with only one. The ocean is an engineer. It solves problems in ways that seem impossible until you understand the constraints. 2,400 meters. You have been descending for a long time now, and your breathing is very slow. Can you feel it? The way each breath takes slightly longer than the last, the way the pause at the top of each inhale is growing just a little. The way your body is doing what bodies do in the deep, slowing down, quieting, turning inward. The midnight zone has a quality that is difficult to describe, but unmistakable is felt. Even imagined, even in the mind, in the way that this descent exists in your mind, it has a quality of weight, of settling, of things being very far from where they started, how far from where they need to go. There is nowhere to go from here, nowhere down. On the surface, the world of sunlight and noise and temperature variation and all the things that require energy and attention and response is so far above as to be almost theoretical. Down here, nothing is required of you. Breathe. In, out. 2,600 meters. The seafloor is beginning to feel near. We are above the abyssal plain, the vast, flat, sediment-covered floor that stretches across the bottom of every major ocean basin. At around 4,000 meters on average, the ocean floor forms a plateau, vast, featureless, ancient. The sediment is up to 1 kilometer thick in some places, accumulated over tens of millions of years of marine snow. But we are not going to the floor tonight. Tonight, we hover here at 2,600 meters in the water column, in the dark, with the anglerfish and the vampire squid and the marine snow and the pressure and the stillness. And we think about everything above us, 2,600 meters of water above your head right now, in this thought experiment, in this imagined place, the dark water of the upper midnight zone, the mesopelagic twilight, the sunlit surface, the atmosphere, the clouds, the stars, all of that above you, and here you are at the bottom of it, floating in the still dark water, breathing very slowly. The anglerfish pulses. Once. Blue-white. Cold. And you watch it. And somewhere in this moment, in the cold, in the dark, In the absolute quiet of a place 2.5 kilometers below the surface of the sea, something in you quiets too. The thing that has been running all day, the background process, the constant hum of thought and plan and memory and anticipation, is getting quieter. Quieter than it was at 200 meters, quieter than it was at 500. Down here, at the bottom of everything, even that quiet voice gets soft and softer. 2,700 meters, the anglerfish drifts, the marine snow falls, the pressure holds everything still, and you breathe, very slowly, in, out. 2,800 meters. Down here, the concept of time feels different than it does at the surface. At the surface, time is measured in events, sunrise and sunset, high tide and low, the ringing of a phone, the movement of a clock's hands. Time is something that happens to you, that arrives with things and departs with them. The day fills up. The day empties. Another day begins. Down here, time is not measured in events. There are no events. No sunrise reaches this depth. No tide is felt. No seasonal shift in temperature. No storm, however violent at the surface, sends more than the faintest ripple to 2,800 meters. Time passes at this depth the way light passes through 2,800 meters of water. It arrives, if it arrives at all, so faded and dispersed and changed from its original form that it is barely recognizable as the same thing. The anglerfish may live for decades. In all of those decades, her experience of time, if we can call it that, is simply dark, cold, still. Dark, cold, still. Dark, cold, still. An unbroken monotone of existence that would drive any surface animal to madness, but which, for her, is simply the nature of being alive. She does not experience boredom. Boredom requires a brain that expects variety, that has learned to anticipate the alternation of experience that surface life provides. The anglerfish has never had that expectation. She has never known anything but the dark. There is something in that, not envying it, but finding in it a kind of lesson about the relationship between expectation and suffering. The anglerfish does not suffer her darkness. The vampire squid does not suffer its cold. The dragonfish does not suffer its pressure. They are exactly where they were made to be, and you are exactly where you were made to be, in a warm place, supported, safe, with the capacity for sleep that your body has perfected over millions of years of evolution, a sleep so deep and so restorative that you will wake tomorrow changed, refreshed, repaired in ways that nothing else could accomplish. Sleep is your deep ocean, the place where the noise of the surface world doesn't reach, where time passes differently, where the body does its slow, quiet, necessary work. Breathe in, out. 2,900 meters, another creature in the dark, the Dumbo octopus, Grimpeteuthis, named for the pair of ear-like fins on either side of its mantle that, seen in submersible footage, bear an uncanny resemblance to the large ears of the Disney elephant. The Dumbo octopus is small. Most species reach only 20 to 30 centimeters, and it moves through the water with a slow, rhythmic flapping of those fins, supplemented by pulses of its mantle and the flowing movement of its arms beneath it. It is, by any measure, one of the most endearing creatures in the deep ocean. Its body is soft and rounded. Its movements are unhurried and graceful. It drifts through the midnight zone at depths that can reach 7,000 meters. It is the deepest living octopus known to science. The Dumbo octopus hunts by hovering just above the seafloor and searching for small crustaceans, worms, and bivalves in the sediment. It pounces, or what passes for a pounce at this depth, a slow, deliberate downward motion, and captures its prey with its arms. Unlike the anglerfish, which must wait for prey to come to her, the Dumbo octopus actively searches, but it does so at a pace so slow that calling it hunting seems generous. It is more like very deliberate browsing. It passes below you now, its fins flapping once, twice, a small pale shape against the deeper dark of the water below. Then it is gone. 3,000 meters, 3 kilometers below the surface of the ocean. Take a moment with that number, 3 kilometers. If you drove 3 kilometers on a highway, it would take perhaps 2 minutes. 3 kilometers is not, in ordinary terms, a large distance. You can see 3 kilometers from any elevated point on a clear day. 3 kilometers is a walk of perhaps 35 minutes. But 3 kilometers of water, 3 kilometers of cold, dark, pressurized water, is something else entirely. 3 kilometers of water is the entire history of deep-sea biology. It is the territory of anglerfish and vampire squid and dragonfish and Dumbo octopus and viperfish and hundreds of other species we haven't named yet. It is a volume of space larger than all the human inhabited land surface on Earth, essentially unexplored, essentially unknown. 3 kilometers below the surface of the ocean, you are in a world that most humans will never visit, never think about, never imagine in any detail. And yet it is here. It has always been here. It will continue being here long after the last ship has sailed the surface above it. Breathe. In, out. 3,100 meters. The water at this depth is very close to 2 degrees Celsius. Not quite freezing. The salt content of seawater lowers its freezing point to about negative 1.8 degrees Celsius. So the ocean doesn't freeze at these temperatures, even though pure water would, but it is profoundly bone-deep cold. Cold that carries in its quality a weight, as though the temperature itself has substance, has mass, presses against you the way the pressure presses. And yet, life, a sea cucumber, drifts along the lower edge of your imagined field of view, a soft, elongated creature, moving with a slow, peristaltic wave of its body, trailing its respiratory trees behind it. Sea cucumbers are the earthworms of the ocean floor. They ingest sediment, digest the organic material within it, and excrete clean sediment behind them. They are, in a meaningful sense, the creatures that keep the ocean floor functioning. Without sea cucumbers processing the sediment, turning it, aerating it, extracting nutrition from it, the abyssal plain would be a lifeless archive rather than an ecosystem. There are over 1,700 known species of sea cucumber. Some deep-sea species can reach 1 meter in length. Some can expel their internal organs as a defense mechanism, releasing their respiratory trees and intestines into the water to confuse a predator, while they escape and regenerate the missing organs over the following months. This is what millions of years of pressure and darkness and scarcity produces, not simplicity, creativity. The deep sea is not a place where life has given up. It is a place where life has had to be more clever than anywhere else. 3,200 meters. Your body right now, where you are lying, in the warmth, is running on the same ancient instructions that every mammal that has ever lived on Earth has run on. Your heart is beating at the rhythm evolution settled on for a body of your size and metabolic rate. Your lungs are filling at the pace that 1,000,000 generations of ancestors established. Your nervous system is cycling through its nightly patterns, the architecture of sleep built layer by layer over hundreds of millions of years, first in ancient reptilian lineages, then in early mammals, then in primates, then in us. You did not design any of this. You do not maintain any of it consciously. It simply runs. It has always run. It will run tonight, whether you are thinking about it or not. All that is required of you, the only thing, is to not resist it, to let the ancient machinery do what it has always done, to drift, the way the anglerfish drifts, patient, still, trusting the dark. We are approaching the abyssal plain. The bathypelagic midnight zone will continue down to 4,000 meters, where it merges with the abyssopelagic zone, the true abyss. Below that, the seafloor. Below the seafloor, where the tectonic plates pull apart along mid-ocean ridges, something extraordinary happens. Hydrothermal vents, where superheated water rich in minerals erupts from the seafloor at temperatures exceeding 400 degrees Celsius, creating entire ecosystems based not on sunlight, but on chemical energy. Chemosynthesis instead of photosynthesis. Life powered by the heat of the Earth's interior rather than the light of the sun. Around these vents grow tube worms 3 meters tall and white crabs called yeti crabs, covered in dense pale fur, and clams the size of dinner plates, and fish adapted to a chemical environment that would be toxic to any surface organism. An entire biome, diverse, thriving, ancient, powered entirely by the chemistry of volcanism. No sunlight required, no connection to the surface world required. If life exists elsewhere in the universe and the oceans beneath the ice shells of Jupiter's moon Europa or Saturn's moon Enceladus, the hydrothermal vent ecosystem may be its closest analogue on Earth. Life that needs no star, life powered from within, 3,300 meters. The marine snow is thinner here, not absent, it never entirely stops, but thinner. The particles are smaller, more degraded. They have been falling for a long time, and the bacteria that break them down have been at work the whole way. By the time marine snow reaches these depths, it has been reduced to very fine particles, a microscopic dust, rather than the visible flakes of higher depths, but it is enough. Down here, barely is enough. Life has learned to run on barely. 3,400 meters. Your breathing is very slow, very deep. The space between breaths is long, longer than you would usually allow while awake. Your body is doing this naturally, automatically, because it knows what is happening. It knows the state you are approaching. It has been preparing for it this whole journey. The descent was never just about the anglerfish. The descent was about going down past the things that keep you awake, the loops of thought, the unresolved worries, the low background hum of your day that doesn't stop when the day does. Going down past all of that, through it, below it, down to the place where none of it reaches, down to the midnight zone of yourself, where it is cold and dark and still, very, very quiet, where you don't need to hold anything, where you don't need to do anything, where you can simply be in the dark, the way the anglerfish simply is, patient, still, lit from within, 3,500 meters. The seafloor is below us now, not far, perhaps 500 meters, perhaps less at some points. We are hovering in the water column above it, looking down into a darkness that is even more complete than the darkness around us, because below us, the floor stops the water and starts the solid, the sediment, the manganese nodules scattered like stones across a grey-brown plain, the ancient undisturbed record of everything that has ever fallen from above. Some of the sediment on the abyssal plain has been undisturbed for 50 million years. The surface layer was laid down before many modern species existed. Below it, layers reaching back to the Cretaceous, when dinosaurs still walked the continents above, when the surface ocean looked completely different, when the current configuration of the ocean basins had not yet been reached. The abyssal plain is the most stable surface on Earth. Nothing disturbs it. Almost nothing has ever disturbed it. It simply accumulates, millimeter by millimeter, century by century, 3,500 meters. There is a quality to extreme depth that is difficult to describe in words that do justice to it. A quality that deep-sea researchers and submersible pilots talk about, and that transcends the purely physical facts of pressure and cold and dark. It is a quality of ancientness. Not ancient the way a cathedral feels ancient or the way an old forest feels ancient, but ancient in a geological sense, the kind of ancient that makes all of human history feel like a footnote scribbled in the margin of a much longer book. The water at this depth has not been at the surface in more than 1,000 years. The sediment below us was laid down over millions. The anglerfish lineage has been in these waters for hundreds of millions. The ocean itself, in roughly its current form, has existed for tens of millions of years, and the ocean in some form has existed for nearly 4 billion. When you descend in imagination to this depth, you're not just going down through space, you're going back through time. Each meter down is a step backward into older water, older, dark, into a world that predates nearly everything we consider permanent. The anglerfish carries that ancientness in her body, in the bacteria, in her esker, among the most ancient types of bioluminescent organisms on Earth. In the very chemistry of the light she makes, the same luciferin-luciferase reaction that was running in organisms before the first multicellular life appeared on this planet. She's not just ancient, she is a living record, a biological archive, and you are here with her. For one night, in the dark, breathe in, out, 3,600 meters. The anglerfish is still with us, still drifting, still pulsing light. The lure pulses, blue light. A heartbeat of light in the deepest dark. It is beautiful. It is one of the most beautiful things in the natural world. Not despite the context of darkness and cold and pressure, but because of it. Beauty that has no audience, that serves no aesthetic purpose, that is simply the byproduct of biology, functioning in a world of absolute dark. The anglerfish does not know she is beautiful, she simply pulses. And in the midnight zone, in the dark, the light continues, 3,650 meters. There is one more creature I want to tell you about before we begin to rise. The barrel-eye fish, Macropina microstoma, is small and transparent. Its head is enclosed in a clear, fluid-filled dome, like a helmet of glass, and inside that dome, pointing upward, are two bright green tube-shaped eyes, cylindrical, aimed at the sky, designed to detect the faintest silhouettes of prey moving through the water above. For decades, scientists believed the barrelie's eyes always pointed straight up. It was only when researchers filmed them in their natural habitat using submersible cameras that they discovered the truth. The eyes can rotate. They can point upward to scan the water column above, or forward to look directly ahead when the fish is about to strike. The green color of the eyes comes from a yellow pigment filter in the lens that removes blue light, allowing the barreleye to differentiate bioluminescence from the faint ambient blue-green light filtering down from above. It can, in effect, selectively see things that glow, distinguishing them from the background, seeing through its own transparent head, with rotating eyes that filter light by color, in the midnight zone, in the dark. And it was only discovered because someone was patient enough to film it in its natural habitat, in conditions that no instrument could easily reach. Decades of studying preserved specimens in laboratories had given scientists an incomplete picture. They had only seen what the fish looked like, dead and decompressed and stripped of the fluid-filled dome that had collapsed in transit. The ocean still has lessons in patience to teach, and so does the barreleye. Drifting, eyes rotating upward, watching for shadows in the dark, above, waiting. 3,700 meters. You have come so far, you have gone so deep, and somewhere along the way, the day let go of you, or you let go of it. The things that felt urgent when you lay down tonight are still there, somewhere, waiting, but they have receded. They are at the surface, far above, small, distant, part of a world that exists 3,700 meters above your imagined self, in the bright and the noise and the warmth. Down here they cannot reach you. Down here only the essential things remain. Your breath, your heartbeat, the weight of your body in the bed, the dark behind your closed eyes, and the slow, patient pulse of light from something alive in the dark, once, twice, blue-white, cold, steady, and now very faint, and now gone. You breathe in and out, and you begin slowly, gently to rise. There is a question I want to ask you now, not a frightening question, a wondering one, the kind of question that has no answer yet, and that makes it, in a way, a gift. We have explored as a civilization less than 20% of the ocean floor. Less than 20%. The ocean covers 71% of the Earth's surface. Its average depth is nearly 4,000 meters. Its total volume, the amount of water, of darkness, of unexplored space, is 1.335 billion cubic kilometers, and we have mapped in any real detail less than a fifth of it. For comparison, we have higher resolution maps of the surface of Mars than we do of the bottom of our own ocean. We have sent humans to the moon 6 times and returned them safely, and yet only 3 humans in history have ever descended to the deepest point in the ocean, a place called Challenger Deep, in the Mariana Trench, nearly 11,000 meters below the surface. 3 humans. In all of history, we know more about the far side of the moon than we know about the bottom of the Pacific. In 2020 alone, marine scientists formally described over 100 new species from the deep ocean. Not rediscovered species, not newly caught specimens of known species, brand new species, creatures with no names, no entries in any scientific catalogue, never seen by human eyes before that year. In 2021, a new species of whale was identified, A whale, one of the largest animals on the planet, in Mexican waters. A creature that had been presumably swimming in the ocean throughout all of recorded human history, and we had never distinguished it from related species until that year. The ocean hides things in plain sight. So, here is my question. Is it possible? Is it genuinely, scientifically possible, given everything we know about how life adapts, about how bioluminescence evolves, about the extraordinary diversity we keep finding every time we look closely at the deep? Is it possible that in the deepest, most unreachable parts of the ocean, in the Hadal trenches, where the pressure exceeds 1,000 atmospheres, and where the cold is just barely above the point where water freezes, is it possible that there are creatures down there that have evolved bioluminescence into something we have never seen? Not the cold blue-white pulse of the anglerfish's esker, not the rows of blue photophores along the lanternfish's belly, not the red searchlight of the dragonfish, something different, something stranger. We know that bioluminescence has evolved independently at least 40 times in the history of life, 40 separate occasions on which some ancestral organism, under some combination of evolutionary pressures, developed the ability to make light. It is not rare. It is not unusual. It is one of life's favorite inventions, evolved over and over again because it is so useful for attracting prey, for finding mates, for warning predators, for communication. What we have documented is bioluminescence in organisms we have been able to catch, sample, or observe. What we have not documented is what we haven't been able to reach. In the deepest trenches, the Mariana, the Tonga, the Philippine, the Kermadec, the Puerto Rico Trench, pressures reach levels that our best instruments can barely survive. Organisms down there have been shaped by pressures and cold and dark that exceed anything we've observed in even the creatures we've studied. The adaptations required to survive at 10,000 meters are almost completely unknown to us. We have recovered some organisms from these depths, small crustaceans, sea cucumbers, polychaete worms, some microbial life. But what else is down there? What larger, stranger, more complex life the trenches might hold, we genuinely do not know. Is it possible that there are creatures in those trenches that carry light in a way we haven't seen? That bioluminescence has evolved at those depths into something that functions differently, that pulses in patterns too complex to be simple luring behavior, that changes in ways that suggest response to external stimuli, that behaves in some way we haven't yet imagined, like communication. Is it possible that somewhere in the deepest dark of the world's ocean there is a light that no human being has ever seen? The honest scientific answer is we don't know. We don't know. Not probably not. Not it seems unlikely. We genuinely, simply do not know. Consider what we do know about bioluminescence at the depths we have reached. We know that approximately 76% of deep-sea animals produce some form of bioluminescence, a figure so high it is almost difficult to take in. More than 3/4 of all animals in the midnight zone make their own light in some way, for some purpose. In the sunlit world, bioluminescence is a curiosity. Fireflies, a few species of jellyfish, some fungi. In the dark ocean, it is the norm. It is the primary language of interaction. It is how creatures find mates, evade predators, attract prey, signal danger, and perhaps communicate in ways we don't yet understand. If 76% of known midnight zone animals are bioluminescent, what fraction of unknown midnight zone animals might carry light, and in what forms? We have found blue and green and yellow and red bioluminescence. We have found steady glow and rhythmic pulse and rapid flash and slow fade. We have found light organs in eyes, in tentacles, in skin, in the lining of the mouth, in elongated spines, in dangling barbels. What else has evolution tried? In the places we haven't reached. What forms of light exist in the Hadal trenches, where the pressure is 10 times what it is here, where the cold is bone deep and absolute, where the creatures that live there have had millions of years of isolation and extreme selection to develop adaptations we cannot predict. We do not know. And maybe that is the most remarkable thing about the deep ocean, not what we know about it, but the scale of what we don't. The ocean keeps its secrets with a patience that makes human curiosity feel very young and very small. The anglerfish has been drifting in this dark for hundreds of millions of years, pulsing her lure, waiting for prey that comes to the light, not knowing, not caring, that above her, far, far above, there is a world of warmth and sunlight and billions of creatures who have never heard of her. She is just here, as she has always been, pulsing in the dark. The anglerfish has survived on this planet since before the first dinosaur walked, since before the first bird took flight, since before the first flower bloomed on land. She was here when the continents were arranged differently, when the ocean basins were shaped differently, when the surface world looked so alien that a time traveler would not recognize it as Earth. Through all of that, through every catastrophe and extinction and geological upheaval and climate shift and asteroid impact, she was down here, drifting, pulsing, waiting. Not because she is tough exactly, not because she is resilient in the way we use that word for organisms that withstand change, but because down here in the deep midnight zone, almost nothing changes. The temperature stays the same, the pressure stays the same. The dark stays dark, the cold stays cold. She did not survive the mass extinctions by withstanding them. She survived them by being somewhere they could not reach. The deepest places on Earth are also the most stable, the most unchanging, the most protected from the noise and disruption of the surface world. And in a way, right now, so are you. And in a world that demands so much of us, that asks us to be productive and connected and optimized and informed and responsive every waking hour in ways that no previous generation of humans has been asked to sustain. There is something almost necessary about spending a few hours imagining the anglerfish, imagining a creature that has done one thing, quietly, in the dark, for hundreds of millions of years. That has survived every catastrophe the planet has thrown at it. That asks nothing of the world except to be left in peace to drift and pulse and wait. That has never heard of urgency. That will outlast everything we consider important. She is still there, below you, pulsing. And you are here, breathing. And both of those things, the light far below and the breath right here, are exactly as they should be. And maybe she is the best lantern we have, the best guide we have into a world we are only beginning to understand. A creature that has had 400 million years to practice being alive in the absence of everything we think of as necessary: light, warmth, company, direction, certainty. She is alive and cold and patient and lit from within. And deep below us, deeper than we have gone tonight, deeper than our best machines have easily reached, there may be lights we have never seen, drifting in the places where the dark is most complete, waiting, as life has always waited, as it has always known how to wait. You are rising now, slowly, gently, the way a single air bubble rises through cold, still water, without effort, without urgency, with no force other than the natural lightness of itself. 2,700 meters becomes 2,500. 2,500 becomes 2,200. The water is still dark, still cold. The marine snow still drifts past you as it has for the entire descent. Pale particles drifting slowly down as you rise slowly up. 2 patient movements in opposite directions, each unhurried, each belonging to its own time. 2,000 meters. You are still deep, very deep, but you have turned. Now you are pointed upward, and something in the quality of the darkness has shifted. Not lighter, not yet, but somehow oriented. The darkness has a direction now. It has an above and a below. Breathe in, breathe out. Your body, in the bed, in the room, in the warmth, is heavy and still and perfectly supported. 1,800 meters, 1,600 meters. Somewhere below you, the anglerfish drifts. She does not notice your ascent. She is still there. Will still be there after tonight, will still be there next year, will still be there in ways that matter for millions of years after every human being alive today has lived out their full span and returned to the earth. She pulses. You feel it, rather than see it, a faint blue-white heartbeat in the dark far below. Once, twice. And then it fades as the distance between you grows until it is just a memory of light in the back of your mind. 1,400 meters. Your breathing is very slow now, slower than when we began. 4-5 seconds for each breath in, 4-5 seconds out. Your body knows it is time. It has known for a while. The descent, the cold, the dark, the stillness, all of it has been guiding your nervous system toward this moment, toward the quiet at the center of sleep. Your shoulders have not moved in a long time. Your hands are open. Your jaw is soft. Your eyes, if they are open, are too heavy to keep open much longer. And if they are already closed, which they may well be, then simply let them rest where they are. 1,200 meters. The marine snow is still drifting past. But now you are moving through it in the other direction, and the flakes that drift down past you are going on their own long journey, down to the seafloor, down to the sediment, down to add one more infinitesimal layer to the archive of the ocean floor. They will reach the bottom in weeks. They will remain there for millions of years. You are moving much faster, but still slowly, still gently. 1,000 meters. The midnight zone is below you now. The boundary of absolute darkness recedes as you ascend. Above, still far above, but there, the mesopelagic twilight is waiting. You're coming back, slowly. 900 meters. 800 meters. The first suggestion of the twilight zone, not light, not yet, but the potential of light, the possibility of light, the geometry of a water column that reaches eventually to a surface where the sun still exists. A lanternfish passes, descending now, going the opposite direction from you, heading down toward the midnight zone for the day. Its photophores blink once as it passes. A brief, pale blue flash in the dark, and then it is gone. 700 meters, 600 meters. Your thoughts, if there are any, are slow and soft and not attached to anything in particular. Not memories of today, not plans for tomorrow, just soft shapes passing through a warm, dark space, dissolving before they fully form. This is the edge of sleep. You may already be there. 500 meters. The mesopelagic twilight is here, not bright, not anything close to bright. A heavy blue-grey suggestion of light descending from far above. Enough, just barely, to give the water a quality of depth rather than void, and you have risen through the absolute dark, and you are here and you are safe. 400 meters, 300 meters. The water is warming. You can feel it, the slow increase of temperature as you pass back through the thermocline from below, the cold of the deep water giving way to the warmer surface water above. 250 meters. The light is unmistakable now, not full light, not sunlight, but a deep blue illumination that fills the water in a way that is utterly different from the dark below. You are back in the world of light. 200 meters. You have crossed back through. The thermocline is below you. The midnight zone is below you. The anglerfish and the viperfish and the dragonfish and the vampire squid and all the patient creatures of the permanent dark, they are below you, going about their slow, ancient existences, and you are here. Still deep, but back in the world of light. 150 meters. The blue is brightening very slightly. You can see further, not clearly, not in any detail, but the shapes of things are distinguishable again. The geometry of the water column has a quality of openness that the midnight zone did not have. A jellyfish drifts past, small, translucent, its bell pulsing with slow regularity. It is heading down, descending into the twilight zone for the day. It does not know you are here. It does not know anything about the journey you have just made, the miles of dark water you have travelled through in your mind, the creatures you have met, the depths you have visited. But you know. Something has changed. Something in the way you are breathing, something in the weight of your body in the bed, something in the quality of the quiet around you, which has become, over the last however long, not empty quiet, but full quiet, the quiet of a mind that has found something to rest in. The ocean gave you that. It gives it to everyone who goes far enough down. Think for a moment about what the ocean has given you tonight, not metaphorically, literally. The oxygen in every breath you are taking right now was produced largely by phytoplankton in the sunlit zone, above those 200 meters of permanent dark. The water cycle that fills your rivers and your reservoirs and your tap is driven by ocean evaporation. The climate you live in, its temperature, its rainfall patterns, its seasons, is regulated by the ocean's enormous thermal mass and its circulation. The food chains that produced everything you have ever eaten pass, somewhere in their history, through the ocean. The ocean is not a backdrop. It is not scenery. It is the operating system of this planet. It runs everything. It always has. It ran everything long before the first creature crawled onto land and looked at the sky with new eyes and began the long, wandering process that eventually produced a species capable of imagining what was below them. And below them, below us, below you right now, the anglerfish has been drifting through all of it, patient, cold, lit from within. She was here before the first human breath. She will be here after the last. And tonight, for a few hours, so were you. That means something. Not in a grand way, not in a way that needs ceremony or articulation, but in the quiet way that all contact with something vast and ancient and indifferent means something. In the way that standing at the edge of a cliff at night means something, or watching a storm roll in from the sea, or lying in a field far from any city and looking up at a sky so full of stars it makes your chest ache. You went somewhere tonight that most people never go. Not physically, but in the mind, in the imagination, in the slow, deliberate act of following a voice down into the dark and choosing, breath by breath, to go deeper. That takes something, and it gave you something in return, and now you are rising, and the anglerfish is still below, and the world above is waiting, the sun and the morning, and everything that comes with both. But it is not here yet. Right now there is only the ascent, the slow, warm, quiet return, and the dark behind your eyes and your breathing, in, out, slow, patient, like a light in the water, like something alive in the dark, 100 meters. You can see the surface now, not the sky, just the surface boundary, the shimmering line where water becomes air, maybe 100 meters above you. Your eyes behind their lids are still, not moving, not searching, simply resting in the darkness behind your face. Let them rest there. 50 meters. The surface is close now. You can see it above you, the boundary between ocean and air, shimmering and bright compared to the darkness below, rippling with the slow movement of swells. The sky beyond it is dark. It is still night. Stars are still there. But it is there. The world is there. And you are almost back. You are very nearly asleep. Your body is warm, your mind is empty, or nearly empty. The thoughts that remain are soft and slow and unattached to anything urgent, anything requiring response. The ocean held you all the way down and all the way back up, and now the bed is holding you, and they are the same in a way, the same quality of support, the same permission to simply exist without effort. You are allowed to stop here, right here, on the edge. The anglerfish is still down there, still drifting in her midnight zone 2.5 kilometers below the surface of the sea. Her lure is still pulsing, blue-white, cold, steady. She doesn't know the night is ending or beginning. She doesn't know what a night is. She only knows the dark and the patience and a slow pulse of light in the water. She will still be there when you wake. She will still be there long after you wake. The marine snow is still falling. The ocean floor is still accumulating. The deep water is still circulating slowly on its 1,000-year journey through the ocean basins. All of that continues quietly while you sleep. You don't need to watch it. You don't need to track it. You can let it go on without you. Everything is going on without you right now in the best possible way. The world is proceeding. The ocean is deep and cold and full of light it makes itself. The stars are still in the sky. The earth is still turning. And you are here. Warm. Still. Safe. Breathe. In. Out. Let the breath come in on its own now. Let it go on its own. You don't need to manage it. Your body knows. Your body has always known. Let it. The anglerfish pulses come far below, blue-white, cold, once, twice, gone. Sleep. Let your eyes stay closed. Let your shoulders stay where they are. Let your hands stay open. Let your jaw be soft. Sleep. if you have not already. Sleep. The ocean is very deep, and very still, and very dark, and it is full of light we haven't seen yet, and that is enough for tonight. That is more than enough. Sleep. Follow unseen ocean history for more deep ocean mysteries. There are so many more places to go.